Hello guys, in today's lesson we are going to talk about stalls, specifically power on stalls and power off stalls. Understanding stalls is extremely important for pilots because stalls can happen during some of the most critical phases of flight like takeoff, approach, and landing. So today we'll break down what a stall actually is, why it happens, and how to recover from it safely. Alright, let's get started. So, what is a stall? Instead of thinking of a stall as simply losing lift, let's talk about it in more aerodynamic terms. A stall occurs when the wing axis the critical angle of attack. Okay? And remember, a stall is not really about airspeed, it's about angle of attack. That means a stall can happen during climbs, turns, or even at higher airspeeds if the angle of attack becomes too large. Okay, so keep in mind that. And now in the airplane handbook, you will see the stall speed listed such as VS1 and VS0. VS1 is the stall speed in a clean configuration, meaning flaps up. And VS0 is the stall speed in a landing configuration, meaning flaps extended. And for example, in a Cessna 172, VS1 is about 48 knots. And VSO with flaps is around 4 knots. As the airplane approaches these speeds, you may hear the stall warning horn and feel buffeting from the wings. If the angle of attack continues to increase beyond the critical angle, the wing can no longer produce enough lift, and the airplane enters a stall. Doesn't it make sense? Cool. Alright, now let's quickly talk about what the private pilot ACS expects when we practice stalls. For PPL training, we mainly practice two types of stalls, power on stalls and power off stalls. So power on stall it represents a takeoff or departure climb where the airplane has high power and higher pitch attitude. And power off stall represents an approach or landing scenario where the airplane is slowing down with reduced power. Now, one important thing to remember is that the examiner is not just looking for you to stall the airplane. Even while you're inducing the stall, you are still expected to maintain control of the aircraft. That means maintaining your heading within about plus minus 10 degrees in straight flight, and if you're turning, keeping the airplane coordinated with only a small bank angle, like about plus minus 10 degrees, but less than 20 degrees. Okay. So the key idea here is simple. Just even when the airplane is approaching a stall, you should still be flying the airplane smoothly and in control. Okay. Cool. So now, let's talk about why stall training is important. The reason is simple. Many stall-related accidents happen during low-altitude phases of flight. For example, during takeoff, during approach, or the base to final turn, or during the go-around. During these phases, the airplane is usually slow and close to the ground. So if a stall happens in those situations, it can quickly become very dangerous. And even if we are not close to the ground, we still practice stall recovery because we want to prevent the situation from developing into a spin. That's another big reason why we train this maneuver. Okay. And well, now the good news is that the Cessna 172 is designed to be very stable, and it's not easy to enter a spin if the airplane is flown properly. But that doesn't mean we ignore the risk, right? So what's really important is that pilots learn to recognize the stall cues early and then recover at the right time with the correct technique. So in the end, the stall training is really about learning to stay ahead of the airplane and keep it coordinated and under control. Does it make sense? Great. Okay. Yes, so now let's start with the power on stall. This maneuver simulates situations like takeoff or go around, In those situations, the airplane has high power and a high pitch attitude, which increases the angle of attack. If the pitch continues increasing too much, the wing can exceed the critical angle of attack and stall. Okay, that's what we are trying to simulate and learn to recover from. Okay. And before starting the maneuver, we first complete PMF, and PMF is a pre-maneuver flow, and two 90-degree clearing turns to check for traffic, of course. So, and then choose an outside reference point so we can maintain heading. And after that, we stabilize the airplane at about 90 knots and 2300 RPM and make sure we are above 1500 feet AJO. Cool. So once everything is stable, we are ready to begin this maneuver. Yeah, here's the entry for the power on stall. To begin the setup, reduce the power to about 1500 RPM and maintain straight and level flight while allowing the airplane to slow down. So you're gonna be just to keep pitching off gradually to hold at altitude. And we let the airspeed decrease to about 55 knots, which is roughly our rotation speed for takeoff. Yeah. And the reason we do this is to start the maneuver from a stable slow flight condition, basically simulating the moment right after takeoff. When the airplane is slow and the pitch attitude begins to increase. So the key idea here is that we don't rush into the stall. We want the airplane stable and controlled first before we begin the maneuver. Alright? Cool. Alright, now we are going to induce the stall. When your airspeed is around 55 knots, smoothly apply full power and begin to increase the pitch. Bring the nose up until the horizon comes up near the FMS nope reference. Let me zoom here. So FMS nope is this one. So you're gonna match your horizon around, around over like here. Okay, but don't do it abruptly, please. Just raise the pitch gradually and smoothly. As the power comes in, then remember that left turn tendencies will try to yaw the airplane to the left, right? So it's very important to apply right rudder to keep the ball centered. Okay? Keep the ball centered. And maintain coordination, of course. Yeah. So you'll also notice that the pitch attitude here is higher than a normal VX climb. And as the stall approaches, you will start to hear the stall warning horn and feel wing buffeting. At the same time, make a call out like a stall warning horn or wings buffeting. Okay? Cool. Alright, now let's recover. When the stall occurs, the first and most important step is to reduce the angle of attack. So gently lower the nose to about the 2x pitch attitude to break the stall. Once the airplane recovers and the wing starts reproducing lift again, allow the airspeed to increase to VX. And then transition to VY. Okay? And begin climbing back to your original altitude and heading that you had set before the maneuver. Okay. Throughout the recovery, make sure you maintain coordination and directional control using rudder as needed. Okay. So the recovery is pretty straightforward. Just reduce the angle of attack, pitch down to about 2x pitch, make pitch to VX first, then VY, and climb back to your original altitude and heading. Sounds good? Great. Okay. Okay, let's move on to the power off stall. This maneuver simulates situations like approach and landing, especially during the base to final phase. And during landing, the airplane is usually slow, configured with flaps, and flying at a higher angle of attack. If the pitch increases too much, the airplane can stall easily. So that's what we are simulating and with the power off stall. Okay, cool. Yeah, before setup, well, just like before on a power on stall, we start with PMF and two 90-degree clearing turns to check for traffic, then choose an outside reference point to maintain your heading. After that, we stabilize the airplane at 90 knots with 2300 RPM and make sure we are above 1500 feet AGL. Okay. Once everything is stable, we begin configuring the airplane for landing. Okay, for landing. Great. Alright, then this step is actually the same sequence you'll use later in the trip pattern when landing. So it's a good idea to get comfortable with the flow here. So first, reduce the power to about 1500 RPM. And then extend flaps to 10 degrees while maintaining straight and level flight, of course. Then your airspeed is gonna be bleeding off, right? So, but for now, at this stage, we are targeting about 77 knots first. Yes. Once the airspeed reaches around 77 knots, adjust your outside pitch picture to roughly 2x pitch. Okay. Then, yeah, roughly the 2x pitch reference to slow the airplane to about 75 knots. If you set 2x pitch here, then your airspeed will maintain around 75 knots. The goal here is to gradually configure the airplane just like you'd during a normal landing approach. Okay? And good. Alright, now as the airplane slows down at around 75 knots, we extend the flaps 20 degrees here and maintain about 70 knots. 70 knots, yes. And then at around 70 knots, we extend the flaps 30, which is full, and stabilize at approximately 65 knots. Okay. Yeah, that's all. So now the airplane is essentially configured like a final approach for landing. Okay. Great. All right. Now, let's look at the power off stall and the recovery. To induce the stall, it helps to think of this like you're performing a landing flare. So first, bring the power to idle and begin increasing the pitch to approximately VX attitude. Actually, this pitch will actually be slightly higher than a normal landing flare because here we are intentionally increasing the angle of attack until the airplane stalls, right? So, normally during a landing flare, the pitch attitude is closer to what you see in a VY climb, but here we raise it a little more to reach the stall easily. Okay, so we're gonna set it to VX for now and to induce the stall, and as the stall approaches you will start to hear the stern warning horn and feel wing buffeting. At the moment, make the call out and begin the recovery. Okay, so for the recovery, first, reduce the angle of attack to about the 2x pitch attitude, then apply full power and retract the flaps to 20. Okay. These actions happen almost simultaneously. Once the airplane is stabilized, then pitch up to VX, then transition to VY, and as you climb back to your original altitude and heading. Okay, it's also simple. And then manage the remaining trim. Just at 60 knots, retract the flaps to 10 degrees, and once above 60 knots, retract the flaps fully. Okay. Well, just in my opinion, at first, this flap sequence might look a little complicated at first, but with practice, your hands will start reacting almost automatically, and it becomes very natural. Yeah, for sure. One more important habit is whenever you move the flaps. Try to make a call out. Like below 110 flaps 10, below 85 flaps 20, 30, at 60 flaps 10, flaps 10, and above 60 flaps 0, something like this. Okay. So building those small habits only helps you develop professional flying discipline from the start. Does it make sense? Great. Cool. Alright, so today we covered the power on stalls and power off stalls, what situations they represent, and how to recover safely. Next time we are going to move on to ground reference maneuvers. And these are pretty funny. And specifically like rectangular course, as turns across the road, and turns around point. These maneuvers help pilots learn how to control the airplane relative to the ground reference and correct for wind drift. So stay tuned for that, and thanks for watching. I will see you in the next lesson. Thank you.